Hey, this is Notser, and today we're going to be doing some ship science. This is 9.1 public test server. We are checking out the unique upgrades, specifically the AA-related ship upgrades. And I felt like this was a great opportunity because it's so easy to create a control, and then from there add in the module upgrades and even consider some of your commander skills or even consumable equipment to further enhance the ability for the gearing to fight enemy aircraft. So I'm in a gearing. My build is priority target, last stand, survivability expert, concealment, relocation, basic firing training, and torpedo acceleration. I enjoy it. It works very well. But you'll notice that it doesn't have any AA skills, and I don't have defensive AA. So this is what most DDs might experience currently versus enemy aircraft. And we're going to be showing off what the different modules that Wargaming have updated, their influence over this matchup, because the matchup is supposed to be really unfair. And it is really unfair. It's two enemy aircraft constantly attacking you, and I don't have any way of enhancing them. But I am using my priority sector, as everyone should. It's baked into your ship. It's part of the AA process, and you'll notice that I'm using it on cooldown. Also, while we're doing the control in this example, you'll note that the UI has been updated. And I believe Wargaming continues to update the UI in many regards. This UI looks more familiar with the subtesting. And what they have done is, you'll notice that the font is slightly different. It looks a little bit more like Impact Narrow. You'll also notice that the consumables have slightly different presentation style. Seemingly, the guns will fade out based on the loadout, whether AP or HE. They didn't really do that back in the day. It's sort of equal presentation with you selecting, but in this version of the UI, it seems that Wargaming wants to de-emphasize parts of the game that aren't important, overemphasize parts of the games that are very important, like, for instance, a consumable coming off a cooldown. You'll note that the damage control, it's going to flicker and it bloom out a little bit more. And that's obviously more noticeable for the player base, but we are clearly in range of the enemy aircraft, and they're just constantly attacking. And I'm using my priority sector on cooldown, and you'll notice that I just can't keep up. Does this sound familiar to you guys? As a DD right now, you keep it turned off, but then you have to turn it on because enemies are attacking you. But when you are trying to defend yourself, you can't possibly stop the enemy squadrons before they follow up with a second attack or a third attack and do damage to you. And that is exactly what I'm dealing with right here. And there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And we're definitely dead. And we died with, how much time has gone? Probably 3.5 minutes, maybe. 3 minutes. And we only killed 50 aircraft. We did no damage to enemy aircraft carriers. But this is the control. This is how bad it is currently in the game. We did 92,000 AA damage. Now let's check out the same exact build with one change. This time we're using the Slot 3 AA module, which switched from 2 extra flak bursts, which was completely useless for DDs, because obviously flak requires long range, and if you have your long range on, you're basically homing the enemy into your location. But now, with this updated version, it has a faster recharge on priority sector. So priority sector is going to come off of cooldown 2 seconds quicker with this build. That's the only thing that's different. Instead of 10 seconds, it has an 8-second cooldown. But you'll notice it's actually a lot easier to keep up with the damage requirement if you're able to use your priority sector on cooldown, which is every 8 seconds, versus the control, which is every 10. And that's the only thing that this module offers. But that one change completely redefines its position. It is now more relevant than it's ever been for DDs and cruisers in the AA space, because it's enhancing the best feature that you have, your priority sector. So obviously, incoming aircraft, you activate it on cooldown whenever you can see that you can do damage, and we're actively maneuvering. It's pretty straightforward on that, but you'll notice it's just coming off of cooldown faster. I can have a higher damage output towards the opponent in a short amount of time. And the way it works out, 2 seconds off, that means that if the enemy attacks you 5 times, you get an extra priority sector in the time that it would have taken normally to defend yourself with the previous version. So it's just a really big, impactful change that should be felt across the board for every single ship that wants to participate in the AA space. Hell, you could even put it on a battleship, and the battleships would benefit the most because they have the longest cooldown. I think it's 15 seconds or 20 seconds. Bringing that down will allow you to defend yourself easier and more frequently. And that is my impression while playing this and showing off and doing all the things that I normally do. You'll just notice that with this priority sector, the enemy squadron is over the target for less time. I'm able to shoot down the enemy aircraft fast enough that they can't even keep up with the rate of attack. Something I couldn't do with the control, but is very easy to do with that one module change. And this doesn't even include defensive AA. This doesn't include slot 6, updated auxiliary module that has the secondaries and the AA and that 2+ flak when using defensive AA. Also, I didn't even make use of any of the upgraded modules in like slot 5 that has a faster cooldown on the consumable. I will also be showing that off as well as part of the final phase where I just go full on anti-air. But from my view, this works very well, and all it required I do is swap out my aiming module in slot 3 for the AA module. That was the only change that I made. I'm still using priority target, last stand, survivability expert, concealment, relocation, basic firing training, and torpedo acceleration. But as you can see, we're able to get within the aircraft carrier's secondary gun range, and we're able to do torpedo attacks on them. And obviously, we're going to die. That's not what I care much about. It's bots, whatever. But the fact that we can operate this close to them and put a ton of punishment on them says a profound amount about the upgraded module. I mean, this is a completely different experience to the one I just had, even though it is the exact same experience outside of the module adjustment. So, very happy with the way that worked out. Let's take a look. We've got 83 aircraft shot down in nearly the same amount of time, and we did 125,000 damage. So, clearly the damage impact is immediately noticeable by this single module adjustment, and it's a great thing about it that Wargaming is updating these modules and giving us a better version of, honestly, what the game deserves to be, a high tactical game that has a lot of consideration. Now, same build, gearing. The only changes I've made is instead of radio location, I'm using advanced firing training. I equipped defensive AA. I also have in slot 6 the AA module with the auxiliary secondaries baked in together, and we're using the slot 3 with the improved priority sector. So, and they're bots, they're easy, no duh, but it's a controlled environment. We haven't changed any of the variables outside of the modules themselves and a couple consumable decisions. But because we've only changed a couple of them, we can very plainly see the impact that it has on my ability to defend myself from 2 enemy aircraft bots. I realize they're bots. All of you should realize they're bots. And if you want to give that argument, I just want to give another argument to you. You need a control in order to scientifically understand what's going on and the impact that it has. If I were to have players control these, they would have to 3 times in a row play exactly the same. Whereas with bots, it's much easier for me to just set them up with the same AI, play it the same way out, and see the impact that the changes make. And clearly, so far, so good. So we're once again going towards the enemy. Once again, on cooldown using priority sector. And in fact, the funny thing about this is we are wiping the squadrons so fast that we actually have time where the enemy isn't attacking. And that was unheard of compared to the first game that I showed off. The first game, I couldn't kill them fast enough, and by the time I did, the next squadron was already on approach. In the second game, I was able to finish them off after, 2 passes. But 2 passes is a lot better than 3 and 4, and that's what it drags out to be in the base game that we all have to experience right now on live client. This is an extreme, I know. Not everyone is going to go a full AA build, Notser, but if they did, how much power would you actually have? Quite a bit, it seems. Quite a bit that I would wager you are now more terrifying for the enemy aircraft carrier than he is to you. That sort of has switched. Remember, I have great concealment. I can easily remain hidden the whole time. And also, we're using the slot 5 consumable extension. So my defensive AA actually lasts for, I think, 58 seconds or something like that. Just a ridiculous amount of time. And they're actually scrambling torpedo squadrons because they've already run out of the attack rockets, or for the Americans, the dive bombers. So it's a really great experience to discover that the changes that Wargaming actually are offering are meaningful, and they're not some, half measure Sigma change. I'm looking at you, Kremlin. This is not half measure. This is a dominant improvement to a matchup that was anything but, clearly, based on the first example. So, we're right on top of them. We're clearing out their squadron really fast. They've gone to using torpedoes because the other squadrons have lost so many. We didn't even get to this stage in the previous two, but especially the first one. We were nowhere near wiping out the enemy squadron to this extent. But, it speaks profoundly, and this is a mistake by me. I actually thought that it was a little bit further away, but it is the Russian server, so it might be that I expect it to have 32 or 35 milliseconds, and I have like 110. So, I should not have taken that torpedo. If I didn't take that torpedo, I would still be incredibly healthy. Incredibly healthy to the point where I could just have my AA go off, and I can farm these guys for nothing, This should have been an ace. I should not be anywhere close to dying. I will eventually die because the secondaries are just too great. This should be a double ace, both of the CVs dead, and I should be over 50% life. But I did make a misplay, and that's okay. But look at this. Look at how much more dominant we are against these opponents. And all we did was swap slot 3 for the faster recharge priority, slot 6 for the AA, continuous and also flak, advanced firing training for radiolocation, and we had basic firing training, as we have always. I believe strongly in basic firing training in every build on my DD, so that's no news. But we shot down 120 aircraft, did 184,000 damage. Huge numbers. And in basically the same amount of time as the two other examples. So incredibly excited by the AA module upgrades. Are they too strong? Well, if everyone went an AA build, I don't think that the CV would have a snowball's chance of doing anything. But I do believe that the option should be there to make yourself better. Now, it could mean that Wargaming needs to reintroduce the sort of the grouping up effect and make it to where emphasizing the individual and de-emphasizing the collective. But I'm very happy that I can equip a module and see real noticeable improvement on whatever that module happens to be addressing. And in this example, it's the AA. So very happy about that. Now, this example is myself checking out the upgraded Torpedo Protection module in slot 5. It has 1.8 assured detection of torpedoes. That means that any torpedo that has regularly 1.1 or 0.9 assured detection, it's gone to 1.8. But any ship that happens to have, like 2.5, the long-range Shima, it's still 2.5. So it's still easy to spot that, but it's a lot easier to spot every torpedo with this torpedo protection module. Also, it improves the torpedo protection by 5%, and slot 2 got a 2% bump or a 3% bump. So the collective, I'm looking at a Yamato that normally would have, I think, 57, 58% torpedo protection. I'm in the 60s. I'm in 63, 62% territory. Nice little bump in just raw torpedo reduction, on top of, obviously, the easier detection. And, well, didn't mean to do that. But you can clearly see it's just easier to pick up these torpedoes. It's easier to maneuver around them and present your best front. And obviously we're taking a round on the nose. No torpedo protection there. But maybe I take 2 torps if I didn't use that torpedo protection module. Very excited over the prospects of what these upgrade modules mean for the game. I will say, wasn't really impressed by the cooldown extended duration module in slot 5. I actually used that on that gearing game. Not very noticeable in its impact because it only really impacted the defensive AA, and I think I had that up for one more time for like 5 seconds longer. So that's not a big deal. But you know what is the fact that these seemingly are new archetypes, new ways to play the game that weren't possible before. Seemingly they are. So I think it's pretty exciting. And, you know, you might argue, well, this makes the torpedo systems weak on DDs. Yeah, it does. But now DDs have the ability to go towards a dedicated torpedo build. There's a new slot 3 torpedo speed improvement, and that's a really nice feature. Any torpedo that moves faster is harder to avoid. I think it goes without saying. And the speed can't be countered by the torpedo protection module, right? So I tried a suicide Shima build where it was like point blank, you know, 8 kilometers, torpedo accelerated, 6.4, and then we went for the speed module in slot 3, and I got the speed of those torpedoes up to like 85 knots, which is a really huge number. You know, there's only the pan-Europeans that are better. But those archetypes are actually going to be tried, and you're going to have to decide what you want to keep as your build. Right now, it's pretty much long-range fire spam that you have to counter. It might be a lot of torpedoes. We don't know how that's going to work out. Overall, I'm very happy with the upgrades. I feel like Wargaming has done a good job of improving the power of each upgrade in a way that makes that archetype more viable, and it should spawn more variety from the game. And honestly, I can't wait for that. I really am excited for the prospects of 9.1. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to check out more of my content, you can click the most recent or the most relevant uploads. You could also choose to subscribe to my channel. We do daily World War Z videos. First impression, how-to, news, and review related. My North American recruit invite is on the screen. You can take advantage of that. I stream at twitch.tv/Notser. Thank you, have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.